here on this hot evening. The heat wave is running all through Europe, and I have the pleasure to share some thoughts with you about what I think sustainability is all about and what is the progress we have to achieve within the next 20 years. My name is Jürgen Lutz. I'm from the German Sustainable Council, the DGNB. A little bit not so good branding for the international style, but anyway. And I've been invited to give a little talk today. Just, I think it was last week. So maybe this talk is a mixture of several things, and what I'm trying to do is to give you an impression what the DGNB is and to motivate you. So, being here and not knowing who you are and what you are doing, I just asked myself, what is the thing we all share? What is the thing we've got in common? And I think it's that one. So, this planet Earth, 4.6 billion years old now. 1.9 billion years ago, life appeared. And 300,000 years ago, the modern human life forms showed up. Now we're about, I guess, 7.2 billions. And we're expected to be 10 around 2080, I guess. And I think it's just stunning because we don't know such a pearl through the whole universe. It's really unique. And the pity is that we don't have a manual how to run it. So we're just trying to do what we can do. And since this is our common home, we are now highly connected, especially on an economic level. This was the 13th of July this year, the date with the most flights within 24 hours, 200,000. So that's an economic dimension of our connectivity. And there are two things I want to give you to keep in mind until the whole talk. And the first thing is, this is the consequence of a human-made, a man-made system. It's a social one and it's an economical one. But we can just do anything different with the system. We can change it tomorrow if we want to. Mr. Trump tries to do that in not so funny ways, but anyway, it shows how fast things can change. That's the one thing. The other thing is that we're also connected on a different level, on the biosphere. This is what's going to be happen if the ocean warming keeps up. And what's important is that this connectivity all around the globe is set up by rules we can't change. It's physics, it's chemistry. So there are rules that are independent from us. If we vanish tomorrow, and there is no natural law that humanity should exist within the next 1,000 years, anyway, it feels like it should, but it doesn't. Physics just will keep on working and the climate will heat up because of the emissions we already have in the atmosphere. So these are the two things we have to think about and to keep in mind. A system that is self-made and a system that is bound to rules that are not within our sphere to change. And I'm not that kind of guy who thinks that the new Silicon Valley utopia of technology and artificial intelligence and all that will change that. And I'm not a fan of geoengineering, something that is discussed right now because of all the side effects, like that the sky won't be blue anymore. So what the talk will be about is just a quick rush through the problems at hand, since you all probably firm with them. I like to link them to the building and construction sector and give you also a little explanation about the DGNB and our system. And then a short flashlight, not that scientific proven, but hopefully a little bit inspiring, about the connection of innovation and sustainability. And then introduce you to a few people I'm would be very interested to meet in person, and then a call for action, as I call it. So on what that talk is not going to be about, we can talk about that later on with a cold beer, are aspects like the importance of language. I've worked on that, the importance of language for concepts like why do we call it environmental protection? It's self-protection. We depend on that system. The separation of functions within societies. We have a department for ecology. Why isn't that something that has to be done in every department? All the moral and ethical aspects, like the denial and all the gap between what we know and what we do. That's very interesting. I've started a PhD about that, but it isn't finished yet, so something to discuss. The role of political institutions like the EU and the UN, and all the technological utopias. I don't think that digitalization will save us. I think it will just speed up the energy demand, and we already got numbers from digitalization telling us that it's just a nightmare. Anyway, you're all familiar with pictures like this. This is the Hurricane Irma in Haiti. 300 kilometers per hour for nearly 40 hours. So sitting 2 days in your house and it's just 300 kilometers speed outside. That's one thing. And you all firm with the problem of air pollution, the problem of plastic waste and all that. So I think we don't have to discuss that sustainability is a must in our days. And I just want to introduce you to two concepts that I think are quite helpful to frame the discussion. One is the one from Rockström, first published in 2009. It's about the planetary boundaries, the so-called there are 9-1, and we're already in the zone of uncertainty, how they call it, for two of them, biosphere and biochemical flows. And we're close to the zones of uncertainty for climate change and land system change. So just here we have the rules I've started to talk about. It's the biosphere rules we can't change, we just have to accept them. And the other concept most of you are now familiar with is the Earth Ocean Day. And that's just how it just started in the early 70s with this in December. And when I was born, we nearly fit our demands within the year. So the concept of Overshoot Day is that nature offers us products and services we can use, and if we just sum them up, we all consume them, we're done. And this day moved forward, and I just, within my lifetime, want to experience that the day moves backward again until the one we've started in the 70s. So this is it for 2018. For the whole globe, it was the 1st of August, and for Austria, it was the 15th of April, and for May, the 2nd. Or Germany, sorry, the 2nd of May. So, and if you compare it to your bank account, it would mean that you're done. Yeah? You have to get somebody who loans you some money, and that probably is a not working system for a long time. So, and just to bring up again the relevance of how concepts work with language, it's always told that from the day on we just can loan something, yeah? All that happens is that the system shrinks, so we're just speeding up because of we are consuming the system itself that provides us the services for the next year. So it's as simple as that. Something went wrong for the last 45 years, and the question is how to stop that. And even if you're not that ecological guy, you don't care about speeches and all that, doesn't matter. If you're just into the economics, it's worth investing. Because 2006 there was a Stern report. Who knows Stern report? A few of you. It was Sir Stern who, I think it was the British Parliament or the Queen even, that just told him, just calculate what it will cost us if we don't invest in climate mitigation and to avoid climate change. And here are the consequences depending on what will happen through the years. And what you have to take with you is that, sorry, I was too fast, is that 1% of invest would lead to 5% of avoided losses. So it's just a good investment, or it has been, because it's 12 years ago. And they made an update 2016, and it was quite simple. It just said, delay is dangerous, and for people and prosperity, for both. So we've got all that problems at hand. Problems with waste, with fresh water, sand, phosphorus, air quality, and all that. And it's kind of depressing, or it could be. But the interesting thing is that we have the UN and we have other parliaments and institutions, and the UN made a move, and they just set up 17 goals. And behind that 17 goals are 169 indicators. And that's a hell of a lot to start with. And each of these indicators contributes in some or the other way to solve the problems. And I just read the one that are connected to our building and construction sector. Clean water and sanitation, life on land, climate action, sustainable cities and communities. That's the obvious one, but the others also. So, a lot of options to start from to solve that problem. And that's the end agenda for 2030, so within the next 12 years. And it's quite interesting because it makes me a little bit hopeful, because what I've learned through the last 15 to 20 years dealing with climate change and other environmental topics are three things that I want to share with you. First, things tend to happen faster than expected. That's nearly every second paper I get on my table that says something like, oh, it's getting a little bit faster than we expected, sorry about that, we should also speed it up. So, time is crucial. Second one, nature is more complex. So, we don't understand the dynamics yet. For example, how clouds form. We don't know it. And there are tipping points, and we don't understand them also. So, what we have to do is to be a little bit humble against nature, because nature is bigger than us. And the third one is the common business settings won't be enough. So, we have to question our practices and become more flexible. So, the good thing is we're part of the problem, so we're part of the solution. As simple as that. There is no big problem somebody outside there, the politicians or somebody else should fix. It's just us. And it's something we can do. And here are the numbers for our sector. And that's really cool, because we're responsible for 40% of energy consumption, 12% of drinking water consumption on a global scale. 38% of greenhouse gases, some would say it's a little bit more, and 40% of solid waste. So, true by numbers, we can make a difference. We don't have to wait for somebody else. It's just us. And we have to, because since the 1990s, that's the benchmark, the referencing to, when we're looking at the CO2 emissions, the increase in the building sector was 45%. That's a lot. And we now, last year, had 41 billion tons of CO2 emissions, and we have to go down to 5. So that's a big challenge. And if you put it into numbers, that's some kind of calculation that's been done by the Mercator Institute. You can look it up at their homepage, and you can change the frames by, you want to achieve on the left-hand side 2 degrees of warming within an upper estimation. That means we have 900 gigatons to spend until 2100. And that would mean we have 20 years to go. Then we have to be carbon net zero for all buildings, also that one in use. And the other one is 1.5 degrees On a lower estimation, that means we only have left 350 gigatons, then we're already done last year. So somewhere in between is the truth. And these are the last numbers, and then I will come to how we can fix that, hopefully. So it's the building sector. 40% of CO2 are related to our activities. And it's expected to rise by 30% until 2060, mainly because of temperatures like today, cooling industry. Hopefully they don't make hooray about all that, because they're making a lot of money now. The more on floor demand, that is rising faster than we can rise energy efficiency. So there's a gap in between. The good thing is, there are solutions. You can look them up. It's the Global Status Report from the UN 2017, and I think we share the presentation after, so you don't have to write it down. And there are nine points to start with, and I don't want to go through them with you now. You can read through them. The important thing is, this is a reminder to ourselves, we know what to do. It's no miracle. So, let's just change the game a little bit. And here's a question to you. Who of you know how, or what is the percentage of CO2 in the atmosphere right now? The percentage. You can calculate it if you have the parts per million in mind. So it's a little bit math to do, so you don't fall asleep, since we're losing a bit of fresh air in. So, nobody asks, so, have you ever driven a car and how was it? And the answer usually is, oh yes, I have, it was fun. And I move on and say, so do you understand the physics that made the engine run? And they're telling me, no, I don't have to. We have engineers for that. So, guys like you. And then I move on and say, and you still got in your car every day and trust that it works the same way like the day before? Yes, of course. Why not? And then I just try to convince them. That's very interesting. Because if you doubt that 0.04% makes the whole climate change moving into a direction we don't want it to, you doubt something based on the same rules of physics and proven by thousands of experts in the field, just like the engine of your car. And you don't doubt that the next morning when you get into it. Hopefully you should do. Maybe you've got to upgrade to 400 PS, so it's a little bit faster. And that's something that's very interesting to me. Just keep in mind, I told you in the beginning that we've got that set of rules we can't change. Physics is one of them. So, what I've learned from this discussion I had, I would say, near to 100 times now, people, we rely on experience, in this case, driving. So, even so 99% of you don't understand how it works, as long as it works, we're fine with it. So the question to us, if we want to transfer it to how to deal with climate changes, how can we create positive, sustainable experiences? Like driving. People don't have to understand it, they just have to know it works and it has to be fun. Second, people can be passionate about anything if they benefit from it. So we don't have to address climate change, since people won't change their behavior based on facts. We have to address something that are interesting for them, like save energy costs from less cooling, being healthy and sleeping well, not that easy through the last two months, having a lovely green space in the neighborhood to meet cycling to work, if it's safe and comfortable. I've been to Copenhagen a few weeks ago, and it was just incredible for me, because I'm from Stuttgart, and we know each other by name, the guys who are cycling. And in Copenhagen, you have just a bunch of 20 people all time around you, and what's crazy is that the streets are still full of cars. So it's just necessary. It's not something they do for just to be sustainable. sustainable. So here the question is, how can we often explain small daily-based benefits, not the big one, oh, we've got to solve climate change. That's a too big problem. We have to break it down to little handleable sized problems. And the last one is knowledge doesn't trigger anything, because you are not a machine, and the number is something that abstract that you can't get any emotion out of it. It's just 0.04. So what we need to do is we bring people in and give them the option just to deal with their emotions. Okay? So I call it the new Trojan horses. Probably all of you know the Trojan story. And that's something we should try to invent. And not address facts and fear, because fear is something that's deeply rooted to your brain. It's a very old structure, the amygdala in your reptile brain system. It's something that goes just the way it wants to, and we have to offer great experiences. It has to be fun to be sustainable. Okay, so what we need now. This is the starting slide from a summer school I did myself when I was at the university 2 years ago. We need something like an evolution at the speed of a revolution. Yeah? So progress, little steps, people can keep up with, but we have to keep serious. And the interesting thing is, yesterday there was a paper published in Science, and the main idea was it only needs 25% of a crowd to convince that a topic is very important and to change the set of minds. So if we calculate it, we are around about 100 people here, 25. So we can convince a group of 400 people that sustainability is really the thing we have to deal with. That's cool. So, having said all this, the problems at hand and how we can hopefully deal with it, the game is that we need to become experts for better buildings. And we need a system to help us to do that. And here are what I think we should expect from a system like that. First is address problems in a holistic way. Takes different users and stakeholders into consideration. It has to be usable for everyday use. Enables measurable positive effects. Conform to existing knowledge, nothing totally new. Give you an incentive for innovations so that you're keen on them. Rely and contribute to a set of common goals. And very important, is suitable for different countries, not just Germany, also Austria, China, Thailand, and anything else. So the questions building are obviously changing the world we live in, and the question is, what sort of world do we want to live in today and in which one tomorrow? So here's the DGNB part, or our vision. The vision is that the design, build, and operating of sustainable buildings should become the new normal, should be the standard. Nothing you have to discuss. Who is the DGNB? Just one slide about that. We are a network. We are a non-governmental, non-profit organization, 1,200 members, from the big companies like Südlink down to the one-man architecture office. And we are Europe's biggest network, not the world's one, but already Europe's one. And there's a system that had been developed over the years, starting 2009. Now we have the version 2018. I think it's now the 4th release. And we already have 3,200 certifications out there in 20 countries. And we're aiming to still be the global benchmark for sustainability. And the whole idea behind the system is to make sustainable usable for practice. So we have a lot of architects within and a lot of practitioners that helped to develop the system and to keep it on moving. And then there's a part I'm glad to be responsible for. The Academy, we are trying to share the knowledge, to educate people to use the DGNB system. Within the room are at least 2 persons. I'm already had the pleasure to work on the system and how to use it. So hopefully we're getting more. So what is the DGNB system all about? It's mainly about life cycle assessment. That's a big difference to the other systems like LEED and PRIAM, and LEED tried to adopt it, but it didn't work in the practice. So every audit has to take an entire life cycle. We have to calculate it. It's a holistic approach. We balance the social dimension with the ecological and the economical one. And it's an emphasis on performance, so we're looking at how the building is performing through the lifetime, not how does it look like when it's erected. So, and it all comes together when you're doing a DGNB certification. That's a kindergarten. It's a Platinum project, a very, very great project. And these are the pillars. So you've got the environmental quality, the economic quality, and the social culture, and they are all at the same weight, 22.5%. And because we're in the building sector, we have to look at the technical quality and also the process quality and the site. We don't want the top green building outside the city somewhere on itself, only creating a lot of traffic. So, as you can see, they are all equal, balanced, and it's 39 criteria. And behind every criteria, there are indicators. Some of them are quality ones, some of them are quantitative ones. You can calculate them, and they're all free to download. So you can go on the website, get the German version or the English version, whatever you want to, and just have the knowledge and take a look at it. And what's also important is to know that if you're doing a certification of a building, you're collecting points for the different criteria. And once you've got 80%, you can get a platinum. If you got 65, you get gold. But, and that's all about the balance of the project, you have to have 65% in the other sectors, in each sector I've showed you. So what you can't do is be very good at the economic quality and the social cultural and don't care about the environmental quality. That doesn't work. You have to have at least, if you want to have platinum, gold in each sector. So why certifications are important down to materials and to performance and to life cycle. And that's very interesting because the asset managers are interested in that when it's all about due diligence of a building, because you can look it up. So that's certification. And it's not only buildings, it's also buildings in use, it's interiors, and it's also districts. You can use the system for. And it's about materials also. It's about healthy buildings and how they contribute to it. And we've got the strictest quality requirements from all systems. Some of the auditors, these are the guys who are managing certification process, are really not so happy about how restricted we are about the materials. But it has to be, since it's all about the health of the people who usually are 8 to 12 hours within the building. I think I wouldn't stay one day there. And there are people living there for years now and just trying to get the copper out of the electronic devices and burn just the rest of it. So what I think we should do is we should evaluate innovations based on sustainability criteria. And these are just 4 questions I think you should have to ask. Is this mainly the focus on economic aspects? How people and ecology are in the first place? Is the life cycle considered? And does it in some way or the other contribute to a bigger goal like the SDGs? If not, to me it's just business as usual. Why? Just remember the first 2 slides today. We've got the man-made systems, these are the economical ones, and we've got the biological systems. These are ones with the rules we can't change. So don't mess with the rules you can't change, and change in between the system, how you earn money. So innovation is not an end in itself. It's not something that should be done just because you can do. So how can the concept of sustainability now give you an input? Be innovative. I think first of all you have to set a goal, like one of the SDGs. Then you have to apply strategies. There are 3 simple ones. Try to do it better. Try to do it in a different way. And try to do it with less. And do it on different dimensions, not only the technical one. Like we're engineers, we always, or quite often look at the technical aspects, but that's not the only dimension. So these 3 are crucial. Efficient, consistency, and consistency and sufficiency. It's a little bit difficult to keep them separated sometimes. The LED is obvious. There was a time when Fuji water was quite hip. People didn't drink the water from their local provider. They just bought the Fuji or other water from the grocery. And on the right-hand side, it's like, just use the stairway to pimp up your fitness and don't go to the fitness studio where it's all with big cooling machines. So this is the strategy, the Troika for Sustainable Inventions. And you can use them for the building sector. Sorry, the picture is just partly in English. It's just trying to look at space, material, energy, and water, and where we can just improve sufficiency or consistency. Like looking where are the renewables, where are materials we can use again. And that's something I would like to work at a summer school if I get the option again, just to have a bunch of very, very interested students and just work 2 days and just blow it up. And I think there could be 50 or 60 or even more great solutions for the market. And that's a picture, a story why I think it's quite important to look at the different aspects and ask you if it's an innovation. That's the street I live in Stuttgart, and as you can see there's a lot of space for parking cars, not for trees. And we have an air quality problem in Stuttgart. And this is one of the solutions they are trying to get into the market. Electric cars, because they don't have that kind of emissions. And the add-on is that they are autonomous driving and parking. So the car looks after the parking space, and that should save us a lot of traffic. And this is the next step, probably to arise. I think it's close to Munich where they're testing that.
Ingolstadt.
Ingolstadt, yeah. But I would like to ask, is it really different? No, it isn't, because it doesn't reduce mobility. People still have to go to work to buy things. It's just another way. And each of those solutions need energy and need to be produced and have an end of life, and probably end like the inventions in before. So this is my Fairphone here. And that's quite a funny thing, because as you see, I just opened it up. Why? Because I wanted to have a new camera model. I got to my birthday, and it took me 10 minutes, and I also just got a new battery in it. And that's something that I think is really pioneering. That is what we need to become. We need to become pioneers. Like, none of all your iPhones, which are great devices, you can't change the battery. Why? I don't understand that. So, and as I told you, there are dimensions we usually don't think about that are crucial. This is in Copenhagen in the winter time, and what they're doing is they're first clearing the bike lanes. So bikes first is the message, and that's what we have to do. Consider different dimensions. Technical ones, social ones, cultural ones, all that. And what we also have to do, and that's a biologist in me because I study biology and architecture, is we have to address new problems. As you can see, the globe can be shaped into different zones of species, and they're all declining. We're losing them. We're losing the genetic pool, and we're needing them. We really need them for things like antibiotica and gene editing and all that. So what we have to do, we have to put them into our set of criteria. And that's what had been done with the version 2018. There's a new criteria, biodiversity at the site. And now you can see here, these are the 3 SDGs they're contributing to, and the level they're doing it, significant, moderate, or low, and how it's called, the SDG, that are contributing to. And you've got a list of indicators for evaluation, like area quality, habitat, connectivity, and all that. You can download the criteria for free, and what I've done, because once a year all the auditors have to show up at a so-called Auditorentag, where they got trained on the new system. And we worked on that criteria before we released it. And after having a 1-hour workshop, just asking them, do you think it's a good criteria? Do you think you can work it out? Can you use it? Do you think your contractor will find it a good idea? And they just all said at the end, yeah, it's cool. I want to try that. It's a good move. It's a good evolutionary step. So, easy thing. Bosco Verticale, it's iconic, but you don't have to build a Bosco Verticale. Right-hand side, a picture from my last holiday going hiking in the Austrian Alps. We started at Bolzano, had a stop over there, and an ordinary parking space with a lovely outside screening facade. And there are experts out there. I invented some of them to give a talk at the Auditorentag. They have just calculated if it's efficient to have such a green facade. And it is, and it helps you for the indoor quality, and so on. There are a lot of benefits. And we have to invite these experts to share their knowledge with us. And maybe innovation looks like that. That's in Brazil, a building where they're trying to catch the water and store it in a tank on the roof, and then have those pipes running all over the facade and have those bricks where it can drain into and have that green roof. So they're trying to cool the building by getting all the way water evaporated at the facade. So that's a thing interesting. So now we're done with the hard part, and the thing I hopefully some of you got inspiration from. And this probably is, to me, the second most important slide, because what we have to do is we have to break with our habits. And why? Because you can do a hell of a lot with all the knowledge we've got, but maybe it's just like we're doing that right now. Okay? So that's what we don't want to have. So here, just a suggestion about sustainability as framework to evaluate innovations. It has to commit to common goals, it has to bring in life cycle thinking. For holistic judgment, it has to consider side effects, like where is going the damn thing after it's done, at the end of its life. Address different dimensions, and less is yes. Yeah? It's emotions that are powerful trigger. Do less and make it feel good, and don't shift the responsibility to so-called sustainability experts. Each of you in this room is an expert for the sustainability within your life, how you act. So here are some guys who are already doing that, or who have great ideas about how to do that. That's Yvon Chouinard. Who knows him? Some are nodding. He's a billionaire, but he still owns his company, and he's trying to get a contract that no one can buy the company after he will be, won't be with us anymore. And he's a pretty cool guy. And what Patagonia has done is they came up with an idea like, if it's broke, fix it. It was a tour over the the US and also in Europe, you can show up with your checkered. I broke mine on the last hike because I just stumbled off the stone and got a great cut. And they fix it for free. And if you don't want to have it anymore because you think it's not anymore the color you want to wear, you can send it to them and they sell it for you. It's just a platform. And there's an idea of Black Friday. Black Friday is one day in a year where all the shops are discounting just as they want to. And Patagonia didn't join in. And last year they just thought about it, and the idea was, oh, it's quite not that clever if all the others are selling the materials that aren't produced like we do that, and are getting a lot out of money, and the money goes somewhere. So let's join in and spend all the money we get from that one day and give it to the projects we are interested in, like saving the European whitewaters in Croatia and so on. And they just came up with the idea. It was the best marketing ever. Matt Damon shared it and all the other guys, and just went viral, and they expected to earn 10 million and they got 30 million within one day. So that 30 million is going to good projects and not into the bucket of somebody who doesn't care about sustainability. So you can watch a lot of talks he gave on YouTube, and his idea is quite simple. Business is to save our planet. That's it. Others do, how about us? We should do that also. Susan George, who know her? No, usually nobody knows her. What is a pity. He's really great, and it's the book I recommend most. It's Whose Crisis, Whose Future? And she just reminds us that we are citizens and we have rights because we live in a democracy, and we have to demand these rights and put pressure on the politicians. Why not make a crowdfunding action to install 20 lobbyists in Berlin to just tell the politicians what we want them to do, and not only the industry? Because they don't want, Susan George don't want us to end like this. Probably most of you know that cartoon. Yes, the planet got destroyed for all of you in the last row, but for a beautiful moment in time, we created a lot of shareholder value. This one is German guy who immigrated to Great Britain, Hans-Friedrich Schumacher. He was quite popular in the 2008 when the financial crisis appeared, and the book Small is Beautiful. This is one of the older ones, just came on the market again. You could buy it again, and he had been sent to Bhutan by the government, the English government, and just to check their way of earning money. And he came back and just told them, we can't help them because they're doing everything right. We are doing the things wrong. Because they're just living by their standard, and they don't need 2 Earths like the Earth should they nowadays would tell us. So appropriate technology for people, that's what he's all keen about. And first of all, make sure you don't do any harm. That's the kind of beginning of the life cycle thinking. Think about what the product does at the end of the life, or how you are producing it. And then there is Michael Sandel, Harvard lawyer, and he just reminds us that not everything can be measured in terms of money. He wrote a book, What Money Can't Buy. Just read it, and it's really interesting, because I think he's in his early 60s, and he just goes like, I don't know what happened the last 15 years. I don't understand it, because everything now gets measured in terms of money, and we don't want that. So there are few other people that might be interesting: Nico Pech, Elinor Ostrom, who got a Nobel Prize, Dan Ariely, psychologist, very interesting, Jane Goodall, Virunga National Service. They're doing a great job to save the last wild gorillas in the Congo Delta against a British oil company who are trying to drill there. And hopefully our names are, in 12 years, are on the list also, because we've done our job also. So, facts won't fix it, it's people. It's us that fix the problem. And this is the tension line we're in now. On the left-hand side, the spaceship Earth with the manual buttons to Philip tried to write, and on the right-hand side, just to read through it. So, and I'm not on the list yet, but I have the option to contribute to a book. So if you are interested in how we can solve complex problems, I think it's a little bit, it needs an update, but we don't have the money to do that. But if you're interested in how our approach is, there's a book out there still, and you can come to me after that, and I explain you it in short terms. We created a 2 days training from that. That's quite interesting. We've done, I've done that 10 times with students, with at the ETH Zurich with educated ones. It's working all the time, and it's quite interesting. And there's an example in the book I've done. It's about plastic pollution and what are optional ways to deal with it, and it's quite interesting because some of them are now getting into action. So, final 5 slides. Okay, so I've become an architect because I wanted to be happy. Now I'm here. That's how life goes. But it's great to be here because I don't have that option to talk to so many people quite often. And the thing is, if we are interested in happiness or being happy, why do we measure GDP? Why don't we measure how happy we are and what we need to become that happy or to be that happy? How is the balance of our happiness and life expectancy and inequality? If you look at the ecological footprint we need to be that happy. So just guess, because there's a rank Austria is on. If you look at the list, which country is rank 1? What do you think? If you look at it at the Happy Planet Index, who is at 1, place 1? Sweden and Denmark, the Scandinavian ones, okay. Where is Austria?
46.
40, oh. Robert, you...
Sorry.
Your memory is very good. No, it's just Costa Rica, sorry for that. And second place is Mexico, the third one is Colombia. And Austria is 43. We are 49, the US is 108. And if we add the amount of CO2 per capita per year, Mexico has 3.4 now, the US has 15 tons. So that's why the equation is that bad coming out for that. So, if you're not on rank 1, what we have to do is change our mind.
I have a question.
Hey, really?
Will Mr. Trump go now to Mexico? Then we have to build a wall.
Yeah, hopefully. I'm sending that slide out. And if you change our mind, it probably just means that we should do that. Not place the stamp there, but live the liberty. That means same for sustainability. Do it, don't just claim it. So, that's it nearly. What I wanted to do is to share the vision, not the vision of the DGNB, but my vision with you, and that means that I think we should do something together, and let us just build strong networks. That's a very good opportunity today. Having a beer or else and just talk to each other. Be inventors, advocates and teachers for sustainability. Question the business as usual. If somebody is telling me, I've done that the last 20 years, then I'm telling, okay, so you're also part of the problem. Let's think about the solution. Set ambitious goals, because time is running out. Learn to be happy with the small and local things. I talked to the catering guys. This is all local thing. It's great stuff. Enjoy it afterwards, and it's just a good living experience for this point. And respect nature's boundaries. That was the starting point. Learn boundaries and have fun while doing it. It's a cool thing to do. So, I'm done. From heart to hands, that's what it's all about. And the question you have to answer to yourself, not now, I'm not asking you person by person, do you want to join in or not? So that's it. Thanks a lot for your time and for your still awake now all. So it's a special beer, and I'm happy to talk to you after that.